Now what I want to do now is I want to go in and do something like this. We're going to start to go down the path of adding more functionality, just adding different things that we have, okay? And we might circle back around a little bit to working with the child themes. We're going to do that as we progress here, but I want to talk about working with a custom menu. This different types of custom functionality we can work with is so important. And you're going to get your theme, and you're going to be like, okay, well, I got my menus, I've got my widgets. I'm going to go back to the appearance area over here, and you're going to see that we've got our themes, right? So I've got my child theme set up. If I look on my left here, I'm sure a lot of you are already aware that when you work with WordPress, you actually have what are called widgetized areas. So you typically have areas of your theme that you can stick widgets in, okay? And those are kind of set in stone for each theme. We also have menus that we can put out there, okay? And menus are set in stone as well for the theme. But these are things we can add to or we can change, which is, I love. This is where you can just start to take it further. So for instance, I'm going to go over to widgets here and take a look. And you're going to see that looking at the CreativeLive theme, this is what we have. I actually have what's called main page sidebar, blog page sidebar, footer left and footer right, okay? Now, that's great. This is great. But what if I go in and I realize that with my theme that I don't want just the sidebar on the main page, I want it on another page, or I want the sidebar to be on a different side, or I want the footer to have 3 sidebars, or just something like that. This is where we're going to have to go in and start to customize it, okay? Same thing with menus. If I go into my menus over here on the left, I'll click on menus. Your theme has built in what are called locations, menu locations. So if I go up here, you're going to see edit menus. When you guys first install a theme, you're not going to see a lot of this because you've got to make your menu. But I've already got a couple made. So I'm going to click on Manage Locations right up here. And if I look, you're going to see we have what are called theme locations and assign menu. Now when we first install a theme, we look and see, okay, well, where can we stick a menu? And the theme has built in a header, a footer, usually, not always. Sometimes they have menus built into sidebars. They have different places. You can have 2 footer menus, depends on the theme itself. What I do is I go in, and when I create a theme or install a theme, I look at the locations and I go make a menu, and I'm sure a lot of you have already done this before, okay? This is not new, and this is something we cover in the basic class. But I go in and say, okay, I want the menu I made header to be in that location, right? So location, you guys, just think of it this way. Think of this. This is something that when I first started working with WordPress, a lot of this stuff was so foreign, and I was staring at code and it just didn't make sense. I had to visualize it, okay? So if I go look at it and say, okay, here's my page. Now this is the page that's like already built, it's all done, you're looking at it in the browser. The page, as we probably know in WordPress, is composed of or comprised of different pieces. We have different little files that make up, like here's header.php, here's footer.php. Okay? We're actually pulling in all these different pieces to create the WordPress page you have, that you see. Okay? And we're gonna dig into that a little bit later. Okay? But on your page itself, what theme developers will do typically is they'll say, you know what, okay, I'm stepping back here and I'm saying, you know, I think my client, the person that buys this theme, might want to put a menu here. They might want to put a menu, you know, here. So what they'll do is they'll basically just make a couple holes there and say that these are the locations for them. And then when you get the theme, you just say, oh, okay, let me go make the menu. What pages do I want? What do I want it to look like? And then I just say, let's either stick it there or stick it there. It's not drag and drop. That's the thing, okay? So in the theme, it's already decided where you can put them. These are called the locations, the theme location. So if I'm looking here, I'm saying, okay, this theme only has 2. It has header and has footer. So I can go in and select some kind of menu. Now, like I said before, we covered this in the basic class, but we're going to need to make a menu, and then we assign it to the location, okay? So I'm going to say footer here. And if I click on Save Changes, and then go take a look at my site, this is pretty typical. I'll go take a look at my site and look and see what I got. It may or may not change, but you're going to see, oh, okay, yeah, the menu just updated. It's now pulling in this menu that I made, okay? So that's kind of cool. That's great. So this is, like I said, this is relatively basic WordPress management and functionality. I'm going to click on Edit Menus here. Now I'm back in the admin, okay? I'm going to click on Edit Menus. And this is where I made the menus. This is where I first made them. I went in and said, hey, let's make a menu. I said, let's create a new menu. I called one footer, called one header, and I set it up. And I'm going to do that in just a few minutes here. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that we can actually create a new menu and put it somewhere else if we want. So if the theme doesn't have one where you want it, or maybe you need another one to go somewhere, we can do that. So to get this done, we're going to go edit the files for the theme. Now this is the child, don't forget. So I'll go over to Appearance Editor, click on that. And if you look in here, you're going to see that we've got the style sheet. It always comes to the style sheet. We want to go to what's called the theme functions file. So I'm going to click on theme functions and go in there. I said before that every theme has a functions file of some sort, and it adds extra functionality and does things like, link style sheets and different things like that. It does a lot of different things. We can go in and create a menu for ourselves, or at least a place for a menu in the functions file here, okay? Now there's a couple things we need to do here. We need to actually go in and do something like add what's called a hook, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a web page here, which is part of the links that you guys got. And you're going to see in the codex here in WordPress, they talk about navigation menus. Now if I scroll down a little bit, you're going to see that we have a bunch of things in here. And you look at this, when you first start with WordPress customizing, you're like, you kind of get blindsided because there's so much stuff to throw at you. But you're going to see something called register menus. Whoops, register menus. And then you're going to see something down here, display menus on the theme. We have to do two things here besides make the menu itself. We have to actually do something called register the menu. That essentially tells WordPress, hey, we're going to have a menu. It's going to be called this, and you better let me make it. Okay, that's kind of the thing. It's called register. We have some code we use, and we put it in the functions file. That's where that goes typically. Okay. Then what we do is we say, let's then put the menu that we create, let's put it in the theme. Let's put it in the header. Let's put it in the footer. Let's put it in the site. Let's put it where we want it. That's the next thing we need to do. So we register it. We say, let's make one for WordPress. We're getting ready to make one. Okay. Then we're going to go in and say, let's put it in the theme somewhere. Stick it in there. The last step is to go actually make the menu. Let's pick the pages. Let's tell it what to do. And then just say, stick it where I put it. Stick it where I have the hole. Okay. So in order for us to do this, you can actually come in here and just copy paste this stuff if you want to, but I already have a file that's in your lesson files that you can download. I have a file set up that I'm going to open up here, and you're going to need some kind of text editor that you can use to open this, okay? So let me go to File Open, and I'm using currently something called Sublime Text, which is a lot of developers use this. It's just straight coding, okay? If you don't like that, then yeah, do something else. All right, so I'm going to go to Open. And you're going to see, we're actually going to be working with a menu here. So I'm going to go to Add Menu. You're going to see a little file in here called a PHP file. And this is just code we're going to copy. That's the idea here. If you guys already have code from somewhere else, or if you got it from that codex page, it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, I'm just giving it to you. So I'm going to open this up. And you're going to see that I marked it out. And it says that we're going to do something called register the menu. And you're going to see right here, it says, OK, this goes into the child theme functions.php file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this into the template, the header, wherever we want it to go. So like I said, we've got these two things to do to start with. So what I'm going to do, if you follow along here, I'm going to copy. Now be careful. Copy everything I copy here. I'm going to copy this stuff right here. I'll right-click and copy it out of your editor. You can just come back over. And let me get back over there, sorry. Come back over to your admin. And you should have the functions.php file open already. You should see it right here. And what we can do is kind of towards the end here. Now you got to kind of be careful here. You guys should see that there should be somewhere in here, and mine doesn't actually have it right now. There should be something that looks like this, a little closing question mark, and then a little like, we used to call these alligators, okay? So we're going to put it before that if you see that. So I'm going to put it right up here and clear a little bit of space, and I'm going to paste it right in here. Okay, so this is actually, let's take a look at what this says. It says, let's register a menu. This right here, this function, this thing right here is saying, this is what everybody pretty much uses. Let's register a nav menu. Let's tell WordPress, we're about to make a menu, and here are some things we can do with it. Here's what it's called, etc. You're going to see that, like I said, I'm not going to go through all this stuff. You're going to see something called array. Array just simply means, you guys, you can make a whole bunch. Just means we're going to stick them in here, but we're going to make one. This right here is called the menu ID. events nav. This can be called a lot of things. You could call it like Brian's awesome nav if you want to. But we're going to make sure that there's no spaces, keep it simple, use hyphens, things like that. And then you can see a bunch of gobbledygook over here. You're going to be like, what is this? Now, this is the ID. That's how within WordPress, within our files, we call it. We say, hey, get the menu called events-nav. Okay, that's the ID. This right here, between these quotes, is what it's actually called when you're looking at it in the admin. So we don't have to stare at some wacky name. It's going to say events menu and look really pretty. Okay. This is the theme name that we're working with, and some of this we don't actually have to have, but that's it, you guys. This is how we register it. And I can go in and save this. Oops, let me go down here and save it. Update file. I almost used my shortcut Command S real quick, sorry. I'm going to go update file. Update this thing real quick. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to say, okay, we just registered it basically. Watch this. I'm going to go over to menus now and take a look. And if you look over here, you're not going to see it over here because this is where we make the menu itself. I'm going to go to what's called Manage Locations and check this out. Can you guys feel that power? Isn't that amazing? That's one of those things where you just, little line of code, and you suddenly have extra functionality in the admin, which is so cool. Now what we can do is we can go in and say, hey, let's make a menu and stick it there. But the problem is, WordPress knows we want to make one, but we haven't told it where to put it yet. So now that's the next step we need to take. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to put it in, let's say, the footer or the header or something like that. Okay? Now, this is something that you need to be careful of because what we need to do, let me just back out one second here. We need to actually copy the footer or the header file, the actual PHP file, from the parent theme and copy it into the child. This is where it gets a little dicey, okay? I just want to kind of mention this really quickly because I mentioned the header PHP, the footer, these different pieces for your pages, right? What's going to happen here is if I have the parent here, I'll just say P for parent. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll say C for child, okay? If I have the header PHP, I'm going to just make it shorter, header.php, what we're going to do is anything that we want to change, like the header, the footer, a sidebar, a template, these are actual files that are going to be in our theme. We need to actually copy the file itself into our child theme folder. There's the child theme folder, okay? What's going to happen is if we now have the header PHP copied in here, it is going to override the parent. It's going to replace it, okay? It's not going to smoosh them together like the styling. That's what's different about all this. So it's just something to think about. So what we need to do is we need to take, let's say I want to put it in the header or the footer. I'm going to put it in the footer. We need to take the footer PHP and copy it into our child theme. This, you guys, this is going to require that you either use some kind of FTP program, and this is where it gets a little interesting. Use an FTP program if you've all hopefully used one of those. Log into your host, and you're going to copy paste into the actual folder. Okay, so you're going to copy from your parent theme, which right here, we're going to copy footer, let's say for instance, into our child theme and have it go in there. Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that locally. So I'm just going to say I'm going to copy the footer, put it into our child. Now you could, if you wanted to, as far as the FTP. And I'm saying it's all scary and all that stuff. Like, this is crazy to do. It's not, right? If you use Dreamweaver, for instance, you can use that too. Okay? Dreamweaver is great because, if you have the Creative Cloud, you already got it. Probably you can download it quickly. You can just go in, make a site, use the FTP built in there. It's pretty easy. And just log in and kind of see your stuff and kind of move things around that way too. Okay? You can also do it up on the host if you know how to get around the files up there. But okay, so I just copied that footer PHP. You're going to, whatever file you want to put in there, you're going to copy in your child. I am now going to go in and do this. Once I copy it in there, we can go back over to our WP admin here, go to our admin, go to Appearance and click on Editor. And what I should be able to see now is that footer file showing up. We don't have to go to an editor and edit this stuff. It's within the admin. Okay, so I'm going to click on footer PHP. There it is. It's just looking in the folder and saying, here's all the stuff we have. Let's go in and make a change. And you guys are going to see tons of stuff in here. It's going to get a little crazy, okay, if you don't know PHP. But there's a lot of things that we do here to pull in content from different places. Okay. What we're going to do is I'm going to go back over to that code. And this is, like I said before, this is actually in the lesson files you can download. And you're going to see that same file called custom menu PHP. I've got this content right here that we're now going to insert into wherever we want. In this case, we're going to put it in the footer. So we're going to copy all this stuff. This is actually a div with a style on it, and it's got the menu inside of it. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and right-click and copy, and I'll explain it in a second here. Okay? This is in my editor. I'm on my hard drive here, just in my editor, my text editor. Now I can go back up, and I'm in my footer.php, and this is the catch here. We got to figure out where it goes. This is the hard part, because you got to look at your code here and be like, okay, where is this thing? What is this thing? Okay. If you see one of the easy things to look at here, you're going to see something like made by. This is the CreativeLive theme. Not all themes are going to have stuff like this. You're also going to see things like copyright, stuff like that. What I would suggest you do is if you're trying to find out where to put this stuff that we're about to paste in, look at the code here. Look at the footer, the header, whatever you guys copied over. Go back over to the actual live site and go look at that part of the page. Go take a look at it. Okay? You're going to see things like, okay, 2014 CreativeLive, contact info, about us, contact blog. This is a menu. I know that's a menu. Okay? One of the easiest things you guys could do to help yourself right now is to actually see any styles applied to this by using those developer tools. So typically what I will do is come up to something and right-click on it, and you'll see inspect like we did earlier, remember? We could also, if you don't see that, you can also come up to, in the browser you're in, come up to the developer tools, which are usually in one of the menus. Open that up, okay? And if you open up the developer tools, once again, scroll down, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, let's go look at something. Okay, you're going to see this eyeglass all over the place. A lot of these have something similar. I'll then go out here and like click on one of the things here, and even not clicking, if you see, do you see that little yellow banner above it? It says copyright. That's a class, okay? If I go back over, I'm just looking at that styling right there, and if I click, I can see, okay, footer text, copyright. If I go back over to my theme files and just take a look, I know I'm jumping, I'm sorry, but if I go back over here, you're going to see, oh look, copyright, theme files, okay? So footer text, there's the footer text right there. So I know where that stuff is located now. I kind of pinpointed it, so I can kind of get an idea of where this thing's going to go. So now I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to stick this at the bottom. This might be kind of dumb, but you put it where you want it. So I'm going to put it maybe like right at the very bottom here. So I'm going to come down here, right-click, and paste. Remember, I copied that from our PHP file, a text file. And you're going to see right here, there's that stuff. This is now saying this is where the menu is going to go. Now, there's a couple key factors here that you need to pay attention to. Because we're doing this using CreativeLive's theme, it's all set up already. But if you're doing this on your own theme, you have to make sure, if you take a look here, that we have right here, here's the name of it right there. The key is this right here, theme location. You have to put in the ID from that first code we used in here. It has to match exactly, okay? So that's what we're doing. That's going to match that code exactly that was in the functions file. There's a lot of stuff in here. We could go in and add a class and do different things. We don't need to do that. I'll come down here and I'll say, let's update file. There we go. Okay, now, we told it a hook. We said, WordPress, let's make this menu. Now we told it where to put it. Now we need to go make a menu. Those are the 3 steps we take. So I'm going to come over here to the left, click on menus again, and you're going to see that we have our manage locations right up here. There's our events menu. That's the pretty text we had in there. Now what we could do is, you know, I don't see a menu I want to use, so I'm going to go in and make one. So I'll click on Use New Menu and give it a name. I'll call it like Events or whatever you guys want. It's just for you to recognize which one's which. That's the idea. And I'll click Create Menu. And now you can go over here, and I don't really probably need to go through this, but you can go in and add all your pages if you want. We can go in and add customized links, and this is usually why people are making a customized menu system like this, because maybe they want to make links to something else that's not pages in their site, okay? So I could go in and had a URL. I can say like www.creativelive.com, something like that. And I can actually have a menu item here. This is pretty cool. I can type in, CreativeLive. I'll say Add to Menu, and this is what's going to show up in the menu now, and it's going to link to CreativeLive, okay? So I can then go down to Custom and actually make changes here. You can see things like titles and different things like that. I can add pages. I can add categories for posts, a lot of different things. I'm going to add my pages maybe. I'll do that. There we go. So I just added my pages. So I've got a bunch of stuff in the menu now. So I can go and kind of reorganize this stuff. This is one of the best parts. We learned this in the introductory class. Kind of organize it. I can then save the menu. Right there, always got to save. Don't forget that. WordPress will yell at you if you don't, which is great. It's actually very good. And then what I can do, I'm pretty much done. I can just go to manage locations, and this is my own insecurity, but I'll go there and say, okay, events, nice, it's events. That's where it's going to go. Okay, so I'll save it. I didn't have to save. I just did it anyway because I'm a little bit of a nut. I'm going to go back over to my page now, do a little refresh, and if you guys take a look down there, you're going to see, there it is, right there, CreativeLive, About Us, Blog. Awesome. Great way for us to be able to make our own menu, put it where we want to go. You guys can put it in a template. You can put it in different locations. There are some places you don't want to put it, and you'll find that out pretty quickly. Things like the loop and stuff like that, but you'll learn. We'll talk about that later.